Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, figure out the next move. And Senator, welcome back to America's Newsroom, and good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Good to be with you.
Would you vote in favor of dismissal?
Well, I think the Senate has decided, rather than starting with dismissal, what we're going to do is we're going to allow both sides to present their cases. And so the order of proceeding is going to be the exact same way the Senate proceeded with the Clinton impeachment trial. In other words, it'll start with opening argument from the House managers, and we'll give them a full and fair opportunity to present their case. Then it'll move to opening arguments from the White House defense team. And unlike how House Democrats did it, we're going to give the president a full and fair opportunity to present his case, to defend himself. We will then move to the question, to questions from senators. And the way that'll work is they won't be orally. Instead, senators have to write down our questions. We submit our questions in writing, and the Chief Justice will ask the questions for us. It's at that point then that I think the debates will happen about whether or not to dismiss the case or to vote to final verdict then, or whether to take up witnesses. And I expect a contentious debate and decision probably about 2 weeks from now when we'll take that up.
You laid it out very well then. Once you get to that point, would you then vote for dismissal if that were on the floor?
Look, I think at the end of this process, these articles of impeachment are going to be thrown out. And I think it's going to end not with a dismissal, but with a verdict of not guilty. And the way it works in the Senate, when you come to vote on verdict, you vote on each article, and each senator will vote either guilty or not guilty. And the reason why this ends with an acquittal is very simple. The House hasn't met the constitutional threshold. The Constitution specifies for impeachment of a president that you have to demonstrate bribery, treason, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. They haven't done that. In fact, this is the first time in the history of our country any president has been impeached without even so much as an allegation of criminal conduct. They have not alleged in these articles of impeachment the president violated any criminal law. They haven't alleged he violated any civil law. They haven't even alleged the president has a speeding ticket. And for that reason, this doesn't meet the constitutional standard of high crimes and misdemeanors. And so the end of this process will be an acquittal, and I think that's probably in about a couple of weeks.
So you're not answering the question yet on dismissal, and perhaps you do over time. Would you favor witnesses in a Senate trial as of today, yes or no?
All right. Well, Bill, let me make sure I've answered the question on dismissal. I think the outcome of this case will not be dismissal. It will be an acquittal. Those are different outcomes. Dismissal throws the case out without reaching a verdict. We're going to reach a verdict, and the verdict is going to be acquittal. The verdict is going to be not guilty because on the face of it, the articles of impeachment don't meet the constitutional standard. That is a much better outcome for the president to be acquitted of these charges than simply a dismissal.
Okay, clarification.
So I want to make sure I've answered that question.
On witnesses, do you favor calling them, yes or no?
I think that's going to be, as I said, a hotly debated question within the Senate. Whether witnesses get called depends on whether there are 51 senators who want witnesses to be called. My view is if we call witnesses, it needs to be fair, it needs to be even-handed, it needs to respect due process. That means if the prosecution gets to call a witness, the defense should as well. If the prosecution gets to call John Bolton, then the president should be able to call Hunter Biden. It ought to be fair and even and respect due process. That's the way any fair proceeding should be conducted. The House didn't do that. The House didn't let the minority call witnesses. The House didn't let the White House cross-examine witnesses. Instead, they had a partisan, one-sided show trial. I think the Senate will do much better, but whether they're going to be witnesses or not, I think it's going to be a close call in the Senate, and we'll have to see where the votes are.
Okay, 2 more minutes, 2 more questions. Some of your colleagues, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Susan Collins from Maine, Mitt Romney out of Utah, all Republicans. Conversely, Doug Jones, Alabama, Joe Manchin, West Virginia. Do you know where they are on this issue today?
I don't, and I think you've identified senators who could possibly vote against their party. Those are probably the 5 most likely to be on the other side. We'll have to see how things play out and where they decide to vote.
Okay. You have said repeatedly, and again a moment ago, that you'll give the president a chance to defend himself. In what form or shape does that occur in the Senate?
Well, the president has a legal team. It's led by the White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, and so Pat and his team of lawyers will be there on the floor of the Senate. They will be able to present opening arguments. They will be able to present evidence. They will be able to call witnesses if they choose. And it's one of the things, you know, there's all this discussion about witnesses. One of the important things to remember, it's not the Senate that chooses to call witnesses. It is the prosecution or the defense typically that says, you know, Pat Cipollone stands up and says the president calls Hunter Biden to the witness stand. Now, at that point, the Senate decides, will we allow you to do that? But it's the initial decision of the lawyers prosecuting and defending the case, and it'll be the White House defense team in consultation with the president making those decisions.
I'm out of time. I just got one more here. Bill Clinton's impeachment lasted 37 days. Do you see that happening now? 37 days, more or less?
I think it certainly could. If we go down the road of witnesses, I think this trial will be anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 weeks, and the big determinant on that, I think, is going to be if we go down the road of witnesses, it could take 5-6 weeks easily.
Ted Cruz, thank you for your time today. We'll speak again very soon in the coming days and weeks for certain. Thank you in Washington today.